everybody, and welcome to Whyde Family Farm. I'm wearing this hat because it's incredibly cold and it's about 15 degrees outside, so I'm wearing it inside as well. We do have a fire going, but there's parts and areas in our house that are kind of cold. So I am today decided to make wheat bread for the first time ever using my new KitchenAid mixer. It requires a dough hook, which you can see right here, and I have a full list of items that you need for the recipe. One is you'll need flour. Now, I had a heck of a time finding flour in the store of the kind I needed. This is particularly wheat bread. So I got this King Arthur flour, and it's for bread. It's unbleached and it's hard red wheat ground. So I got that. I had a huge difficulty trying to find the difference in the store between wheat flour and regular white flour. And what I wanted was wheat flour because I do want to make wheat bread. So I got this. I actually picked up 2 of these just in case I need extra. It does require quite a few cups of flour. I think it calls for 5 to 6. So I got that. I got yeast. Another thing that was incredibly difficult to find. This I got active dry yeast. I got some. I had another thing, like there's so many different options of coconut oil, and I didn't know what to get. There's organic coconut oil, and there's, all different kinds of stuff. So I decided to use this refined coconut oil, organic. Crisco makes it. Not a big deal. Non-GMO. You will also need honey. This is from our local honey place. It is full of honey, so I'm gonna use this. Didn't want to have to use like sugar because going into the not just going into the new year, but in general, I want to be healthy on my no sugar quest here. So I decided to use this raw honey in it as well. You will need a thermometer, which I have right here, and when you heat up the water to activate the yeast, it has to be between 120 degrees. I'm sorry, hold on. Yeah, 120 to 130 degrees. It can't be any more than that, and it really can't be any less. It kind of is particular, because I guess if you have it more than 130 degrees, it will kill the yeast, and then your dough won't rise. So I went ahead and cleaned up everything. This recipe also calls for 3 loaf pans, so I went ahead and did that. You need to start your oven at 350 degrees, and you also need to let things rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything started and get ready to do this. I need to combine everything into the dry mix and then distribute it and then let it rest. What I'm gonna do when I let it rest though, I'm just gonna let it rest in my mixer, and then once it's ready, then I'm gonna go ahead and mix it all together. All right, I hope you enjoy. Okay, so now I have everything going. I went ahead and put, let me move this down just a little bit. Sorry, I'm having issues with my new tripod here. There we go. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and put my 4 cups of flour in here. I added 2 tablespoons of yeast. It only calls for 1, but what I did is I did a little more research, and people added 2 tablespoons of yeast in there, and they said it did wonderful. So that's what I'm doing. I got my water in the microwave right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. When it comes out, I have my thermometer here, and I'm gonna check the temperature of the water to see what it is. And then at that point, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put it back in here into my mix. I went ahead and added 1/3 of coconut oil. So I'm gonna go ahead, it said to add it to the mix. So I went ahead and added it to the mix. And then it calls for 1/3 of a cup of honey. And I have some raw honey that I actually got over the summer. It's from a local place. It's really popular around where I am, and it's Klein's Raw Honey. So I'm going to be using that. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. One thing I find difficult when making any recipe is like when you're using things like peanut butter, honey, or whatever, I find it really hard to distribute it, like to actually put it in a measuring cup. Once I add this in here, it has to rest, so I gotta mix it all together, let it rest, and then we'll be good to go. It's kind of like a little hard because we haven't used it. It's like brand new. I decided to use the fall honey. It's a little darker, so I'm excited to see what that is actually going to taste like in this wheat bread. I just think this is a lot of honey, but I am making 3 loaves of bread, so it might not be that much once it's all spread out. Okay. Well, this is 1/3 right here. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit more. My grandmother and I used to make bread. When I was younger, I always was obsessed with wanting to live in like the 1800s. I always have ever since I was a kid. And my grandma would take me to like historical society meetings and museums and stuff like that. And I was always like wanted to make my own bread. And this house in particular had its own stove in the other room. I always wanted to make bread on that stove. So my grandmother and I would make bread and let it rise on the hot stove. It was like the coolest thing when you're a kid to watch the bread rise. It's so cool. So I'm going to go ahead and add this honey in here. And one way I know that the yeast is actually working is that it's bubbling, so I guess that's a good thing. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll mix this up. Okay, so I'm letting this go. I'm using the spatula. I'm just going to kind of like do the sides a little bit because it doesn't seem like it's getting all of it from the sides, and I want to make sure that it's doing that. It does smell like bread though, so that's kind of exciting. And it's supposed to pull away from the sides, and it looks like it's doing that. It looks like it's better. After this, you want to let it rest for about, it said 15 to 20 minutes, but some people didn't hardly let theirs rest at all. I read online. So do it to your own discretion. If you think it's rising, then go ahead and finish it. But what I'm gonna do is let it sit for as long as I can to let the yeast activate and rise up. And then once I think that it has rose up, then I'm going to finish the rest of the recipe. So. Okay, so I just made everything, made the bread and everything, put it all in there, and now I'm letting it rise. Let's go ahead and we'll take a little sneak peek, and I'll flip the camera around so you can actually take a look at what it's doing. This was so cool. All right, here we go. Open that up, taking a little look in there, and yeah, see how it's like really getting bubbly? That is what you want. Okay, so I went ahead and did that. It's gotta rise for like 15 minutes. Once it rises for 15 minutes or so, then I gotta add more stuff to it and we can go from there. Okay, now it said once it has risen, and it has, it's nearly doubled what it was. It said to add in the rest of the flour. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. I added 4 cups, now I'm adding 2 more cups. Don't make a mess and doing exactly the same. Okay, I added 2 more cups. And then it said to knead the dough for about 10 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with my mixer. I'm gonna time myself just so I know exactly how long I'm gonna do this for. My husband allowed me to use his cell phone because I can't do it because I'm videotaping on this one. Timer, 10 minutes, and it's set. In the meantime, I'm going to flip my camera around and show you what else I've done in the meantime. Okay, so I went and got some parchment paper at the store, and it's way better than actually buttering and greasing the pans or whatever. So I put parchment paper in each one of my pans. Now, I did only have one bread loaf pan, and that was this one that I got years ago for Christmas. So I went and bought these. These are just regular mainstay Walmart generic bread loaf pans. They cost me about $3, so it costs about $6 for these. And then I had that one. So I'm gonna make about 3 loaves out of this. Like I've said before, this is like my first time making. This is my first time making bread. So I'm kind of excited to see how it's all gonna turn out. And well, I think the last time I made bread I was a little kid, so. I'm kneading the dough, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's pulling away from the sides, and it's supposed to do this for about 10 minutes. Okay, I'm almost done here. I got like 30 more seconds. I went ahead and placed some parchment paper on my countertop with a little bit of flour, because what I need to do after this is cut them into little sections so I can place them in my bread loaf pans. Okay, so I went ahead and did that. Now I'm lifting it up out of here. It's a little sticky, but it's soft. You're supposed to knead it until it's real soft. And it really is. It's kind of cool. I think I'm the only one that gets super excited about making bread. I got a nice little hunk of dough in here. Out. And as you can see, got my dough in there. I already preheated my oven, and I set it the time for 350 while I was letting the dough rise. So the heat from the oven was helping the dough rise a little bit. I'm gonna try and pull this out of here. It's still a little sticky, so. But I'm going to try and put it on this parchment paper with the flour. And I actually have a ton of dough. More than what I thought. No wonder it calls for, it makes 3 bread pans full, because this is a lot of dough. I probably should have dipped my hands in flour before I touched that dough. I'm going to sprinkle probably just a little bit more on there. Let me clean my hands up. But yeah, I was super impressed. A lot of people always say they have a really hard time with getting the dough to rise. With pretty much anything, and I was pretty impressed when it started rising like instantly. So I also, though, didn't follow the recipe as far as yeast went. I added in 2 tablespoons of yeast. I read in people's comments that when they added in the 2 tablespoons, it rose really good, so. I went and added more flour to it just to keep it from sticking. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tear it off and put it in my bread pans. But yeah, this dough is super soft now. It's like wonderful. I'm so excited to be doing this. So I'm just gonna take a good hunk off, and then I'm gonna shape it and then put it in one of my bread pans. But first I'm gonna scrape out what I already had in there, so. I'll do my best and try and get everything out of this container so I don't waste it. It's not too bad if you do a scraping motion. It'll peel right off. Yeah, and that just added a lot more dough too, so I would have been wasting all of that. To this direction too, so you guys can see what's going on. Good, that's a little bit better. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is just tear off a little section here. I can't wait to see what this is gonna look like. Breaking it off here. And then I'm just gonna kind of make it look like a loaf as I put it in things. And that's my loaf. I wanted to add a little bit more. I want to make a big loaf of bread. Push it together. Put it in. This is so cool. Okay. Went ahead, put it in there. Moving on to my second. I'm using parchment paper to line the pans, like I said before. It just makes it so much easier for cleanup and everything. This dough is super sticky, so I can't imagine trying to clean it up after everything. So parchment paper is the way to go. I have a pretty big hunk here, So I'm going to just kind of make it look like something and then throw it in the pan. It's supposed to be wheat bread, so let's hope it turns out to be that way. I had a heck of a time trying to find wheat flour in the grocery store. Alright, I'm going to place that on the parchment paper, and it's ready to go. I think once I get the hang of this and start doing things, I'm gonna like do cool things like with it, like weaves, and really get into it. So I like the artistic part of it. Got one more pan left, and I'm gonna pick up this dough here. This is quite a bit. I'm going to use this as a good time is to pick the dough off my fingers here. One thing that's cool, I mean, it's not really economical to actually make your own bread in any way. But the cool thing about it is you know what's in it. Even if you ground your own wheat and everything, you would really know what's in it. But this way, you know what's in your bread. There's no weird sugars or preservatives or anything like that. I added raw honey and yeast, so and some salt. But you know pretty much what's going in your loaf of bread. So I'm just kind of like molding this into what I think a nice little loaf will look like, should look like, and then I'm flopping it in the pan. Alright, and we just now have to wait. Okay, I went ahead and put them in the oven, and now they're baking. So they're going to bake for about 35 minutes, and then at that point I'll pull them out and we'll take a look. Okay everybody, I'm going to flip this camera around and we're going to take a look at the bread in the oven. It is really rising and it's looking really good. So there's a glare and you can see my legs, but you can totally take a look at this wonderful bread that's going on in there. Can't wait to take it out. I'm not opening the oven until it's ready. We got 22 more minutes left. Can't wait to show you this bread. It's gonna be so awesome. Okay, so it's been about 35 minutes and I pulled the bread out of the oven, and let's go ahead and take a look. By the way, I wish we had smell-o-vision because it smells really good in here, but these are my little loaves of bread on the parchment paper, and as you can see, they are awesome. I got 3 wonderful little loaves of bread all ready for you. It looks great. Okay, thanks for taking the time and spending it with me today, making my first loaves of bread. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next video.